The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. I don't know what I was saying instead of California, but thrilled to be here this morning. Oh my goodness, have we got quite the show for you today. Very excited about that. We're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. Now, I said that to somebody the other day and they said, okay, what does that mean? And we were, as a matter of fact, at the Mardi Gras for Autism, and somebody said, you know, what is this Autism Live? They saw our banner, and I said, well, you know, we're a web show. We're all about autism from a 360-degree perspective. And she's like, I don't know what that means. And I said, oh, well, you know, there's so many different things about autism that happen. You know, you have to know what you're going to do to help whoever the member is in your family that needs help. And sometimes that's a child who's on the autism spectrum. Sometimes that's a mom who has a teenager on the spectrum. Sometimes it's the dad. Sometimes, you know, it's the teacher who needs to know how to be able to implement with the child. Then there's everything around it, how everybody feels about it, what everybody does to be able to do the intervention, how you pay for the intervention, how you keep everything else going while you're doing the intervention, and again, how every single person is dealing with that. And that it's really like this big circle. She was like, oh, I get it. It's 360 degrees. It's all the things, all the ways that autism touches our life. So that's what we're talking about here. But the biggest thing about this show is that it's meant to be interactive. We want to know from you what's going on for you, how this relates to you, how you're needing help and support, because at the end of the day, that's really what we want to do is to support you in that 360-degree way. So Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can interact with us here on the show. We know that everybody is different and they like to interact in different ways, so take your pick. But while you're watching all the different ways to do it, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, so many things to do. Please, please, please sign up for our free email list so that we can contact you when things happen and things change. We have a very special guest that's going to be joining us sometime in the future, and I want to be able to let you know, and sometimes I only have an hour's notice, honestly. But also, when you're on the homepage, you can be watching the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And you can also interact with us. Now, there's a series of white boxes. We call them the live feature. There's one that says, it either says rebroadcasting or Shannon is answering right now. If it says rebroadcasting, that means that the live feature is not active. We did have a little bit of an upgrade, that things that were happening on the system. So it was shut down for a little bit over the weekend and yesterday, but it's working now. Anytime it says Shannon is answering right now, then you have the ability to put something in the your comment section. Put your cursor there, start typing, hit enter, and it will show up here on my screen. Obviously, if I'm not here to see it, I won't notice it until I'm in for the next live show, but we try to cover as many of the comments as we can. We are at the point now where so many of you are writing in that we aren't getting to all of them. I have a little bit of a plan for how we're going to be able to address that at some point during the year. So stick with us and keep writing back in. If your question didn't get answered and it's been a couple of days, write it in again. Sometimes They go into cyberspace, and I don't understand why. It doesn't hurt to write in again. But we do cherish when you guys interact with us. Keep in mind that we don't know who you are, we don't know where you are, and I absolutely love that. But if you want us to get back to you, sometimes somebody will write something in and a guest will come in a day later, and I'll say, oh, somebody wrote in and said this, and they'll say, oh, I just wish I could talk to them about it. So, this is a very specific thing. How do we know that they're going to catch that part of the show? We don't. But if you give us your email address, it increases the likelihood that if we need to get back to you, that we can. All right. So I hope that you'll participate. Again, it's free. You don't have to have a username. There is no login. There's no password. There's no credit cards. There's none of that, right? But do write in. If you do give us private information about who you are, I don't share that with the audience at home. I'm very careful about that because I respect your right to your privacy. But it does help us, especially if you tell us where in the world you are, like what the biggest city that's close by is, so that we can hook you up to any resources that we're aware of in your part of the world, because unfortunately it's different in different places, and sometimes that's a good thing. A lot of times that's not a good thing, but it does help us to hone down so that we can actually help you instead of just talking about helping you. And at the start of the show, I always remind you that we have a lot of experts that come on our show, 2 less than we thought today. But we have a lot of experts that come on our show, and we want for you to be able to talk to them. But I am not one of the experts. Let's just be clear about that. I'm an autism mom. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He is now 11.5, and Kelby and I were talking about this before the show, that I wish, no, maybe I don't. I'm not somebody who runs towards apathy, especially since I've had my son. I care so deeply about him and about being able to be there for him as a parent and hook him up with the things that he needs. And I know that you feel that way about the loved ones in your life. I think it's one of the highest callings that there is, to be a parent of an individual who has special needs of any kind. Our kids are all different. I totally get that, and I want you to know that I just want to hook you up to the things that will help you, which are sometimes vastly different than what would help my son. But I feel for you. I got the empathy thing going on, just not the expertise. I have the desire to help and support you and to be here for you, because I always like to remind you, and you guys reminded me last week that you like it when I say it, and I love it when I have an opportunity to say it to you. You are not alone. We are in this together. I'm here for you. I know that you're there for all of us. And when we hold hands, it's that si se puede thing. We can do this. Together we can do this. I think a lot of people underestimate how many people there are who care deeply about somebody on the autism spectrum and what we're capable of when push comes to shove, right? Not that it needs to get violent. No, we catch more flies with honey. That's what I want to say. But in any case, I'm not an expert, but I'm somebody who cares passionately and is here for you. So take advantage. Take advantage, write into me. Make me chase down an expert. That's a good use of my time. It's not a waste of my time. You're not bugging me. I do what I can. I gave up mind reading, though, to be an autism mom, and I am not somebody who's capable of working miracles, but I can listen and hold a hand, even if it's virtually, right? All right, so do write into us, do interact with us. Now, we have an amazing show, but we like to start every show with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to make sense of it in our everyday world. So taking those jargon terms, first we give you an actual definition, then we give you a working definition, which makes the experts break out into hives. That's okay, because we need to have a basis to be able to understand, what does this mean to me today on a Tuesday while I've got a pile of laundry to do, right? Okay, so today's jargon term is adaptive skills. What are we talking about? I don't know about you, but the first time somebody started talking about adaptive skills, I was picturing a wheelchair, and thinking my child doesn't use a wheelchair, but there's other things that he needs to know how to do. So let's take a look at what our actual definition is. Adaptive skills are age-appropriate behaviors necessary for people to live independently and to function safely and appropriately in daily life. Now, think about this age-appropriate behaviors, because I remember thinking adaptive skills and talking about, we're going to talk on Thursday about OT, occupational therapy. When my son was 3 and they started talking about OT, and I thought, what on earth are they talking about? They're going to teach him how to put nuts and bolts together? He's 3. But it's age-appropriate behavior. So if you think about what are the life skills for a 3-year-old, and maybe for a 3-year-old, the life skills are learning how to sit on a potty, and maybe not even peeing in it, but to sit on a potty. That's an age-appropriate life skill for a 3-year-old. Now we might wait until 4, right? Because there's a little bit of leeway here, but age appropriate to be able to live independently and to function safely and appropriately in daily life. So a lot of really important keywords there. Let's move on to our working definition here. Adaptive skills are real life skills such as grooming, dressing, safety, safe food handling, school rules, ability to work, money management, cleaning, making friends, social skills, and personal responsibility. There are so many things that we could have added on this list. How about germ safety, learning how to sneeze into your elbow, right? All the things that go into being able to manage a life appropriately, I always think of, and being happy. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? This is what I think of when I think of adaptive skills. So a lot of times a parent will go in, they'll do an IEP, and it seems like we're never really happy with what the mix is for adaptive skills. Some parents will go to an IEP and the school says, well, here are the adaptive skills that we're going to work on. And the parent goes, I want you to work on academics. Like, academics are what's really important. Don't just, they feel like if the focus is on adaptive skills, that the school has given up on the child, right? Then other times, the school is all about the academic skills, and we're having to pressure them to put in some adaptive skills, because the person has to be able to live after they learn how to add 2 + 2, right? And they need to be able to sit in the lunchroom and have a conversation with somebody sitting next to them, because that's part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So really important that we find some sort of a mix. It starts at school and continues on at home, that we have, and it's a daily thing, y'all. I know firsthand as a parent, like, it's so important that our kids be able to grow and to learn. I'm always working on all kinds of things at school, but I will forget sometimes that, oh my gosh, can he pack his own lunch yet? And the answer is no. Something that we need to work on, because sometime before he gets to independent, he's got to be able to learn how to pack his own lunch. And I maybe don't start with packing own lunch. We start with maybe at 7 years old learning how to make a snack, and then at 8 years old learning how to pack a snack, and then talking about nutrition, so we get the educational element, so that somewhere around now he's able to pack his own lunch. So adaptive skills are really super important. We don't want to make it their entire lives, because there's other things going on, but we want a nice mix of adaptive skills. And remember, I really do like to think of that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, because these are the kinds of things that once they get, there is an element of pride and self-esteem. And I think we've all been in a room with a neurotypical 3-year-old who says, I do it myself. I do it. And then they celebrate and say, I did it, right? We have a right to that for all individuals who are on the autism spectrum, to be able to give them that ability, whether it's at age 3 or at age 33, to be able to say, I did that. I am a person who has affected change on my world. I took care of myself. It is a wonderful gift that we give them. But we want to do it slowly, work up to things, have them be age appropriate, have them be skill appropriate, because we don't want these things to become frustrating. There are so many other things that we're going to work on that have the ability to be frustrating. We want to make sure that we make these things fun, and that we celebrate every single milestone and reward them for having more and more independence and more ability to take care of themselves in the world. adaptive skills. They're really cool things to work on. All right, moving on. We always have a question of the day for you. Our question today, are you ready for this? How are you preparing your children for employment? And by the way, this goes for your kids who are on the autism spectrum and your kids who are not on the autism spectrum. One of the main things in life, we know that at a certain point, everyone is going to want to be gainfully employed if possible. And there are many reasons for that, because they want to be able to take care of themselves, because there needs to be a way for them to be taken care of, right? And again, there is that element of self-esteem and pride and the ability to socialize when we have employment in some circumstances. Employment is a good thing. We can look at this in many different ways about just making sure that they're employable, but I think it's a really useful thing to be able to say to our kids and to start as early as possible about what would you like to do with your life. That it's not just about the exchange of money, although that is a very important thing, right? What kind of a life do you want to design? And there will be a lot of people when we have kids on the autism spectrum wanting to chime in and put their spin on things. But if we're parents and if we're teachers, we get a wonderful opportunity to have an influence there and to talk about what kind of a life do you want to design? How do you want to spend your hours on this planet? Do you want to be interacting with people? Do you want to do something creative? Do you want something that's very stress-free? I think different strokes for different folks. But once we get an idea of how somebody wants to spend their days, and we always leave room for them to change their mind, right? There are so many things that we can do to help them to prepare for employment, from teaching them perspective skills that go hand in hand with customer service, to being responsible, to being kind, to telling the truth. Those are all things that help our children with employment, being persistent and not giving up, not allowing frustration to take over, being able to manage and self-regulate. All really important skills to be able to help children prepare for employment. But something that somebody brought up to me recently is that giving our children the opportunity to volunteer so that they see what it's like to have a job of sorts is a really good thing to do. And I've been having Jem volunteer a little bit. It's a really wonderful thing. It's a safe way. I was going to say nobody can ever fire you from volunteering. That's not entirely true, but it's much harder to be fired from volunteering than it is from a paid position. And they get excited when they feel that they're needed. So we're going to be talking about this today, and we want to know from you, how are you preparing your children not for unemployment, but for employment? All right, we always have a topic of the week. Can you guess what this week's topic is? Something very near and dear, I think, to all of our hearts: autism and employment. We've got some amazing, amazing guests for you here today. I'm very excited. We did have a cancellation last minute, but we're going to start off the morning with Ernie, Merlan, and Yudi, I hope I'm saying the names right, Bennett. They're from Exceptional Minds, and we have talked about Exceptional Minds many times on the show and had guests before, but thrilled to have them back again today. They've got a really unique program that they do here in Southern California that is a program for our young adults with special needs, in particular on the autism spectrum, teaching them skills to go right into employment in the film industry. And I'm going to let them tell you about how this works, but it's amazing. Then, so excited that I get to meet Jonathan Mitchell today. I don't know if you guys have been watching. Newsweek had an article come out in the last week entitled "The Debate Over an Autism Cure Turns Hostile," and they in particular focused on Jonathan. He is on the autism spectrum, and he is a blogger. His blog is the Autism's Gadfly, and he is perhaps controversial to some because he has an opinion that it isn't very popular about autism with some of the self-advocates that are out there. But I think we all have to be entitled to an opinion. We're thrilled that Jonathan's going to be with us to talk about how he feels about the article and any comments that he has about how he was represented in the article and the reaction, people referring to self-hatred and how he feels about that. Now, we did promise you on the postcard that came out yesterday that the two young men who call themselves the autism experts, Danny Raid and Hayden Mears, were going to be with us this morning. We're being told right now that one of them is ill and that they're not going to be able to join us. We're seeing if the other one would be available, or if we're rescheduling. We'll let you know about that. And then we do have an interview for you. If you saw any of the news articles a couple of weeks ago about the Rising Tide Car Wash, this is a family in Florida with one of the sons is on the autism spectrum. So his brother and his dad decided to open a business that would cater specifically to individuals who are on the autism spectrum to give them employment. And they decided to open the Rising Tide Car Wash. We have the brother, Tom D'Eri, who's going to be with us. We taped the interview yesterday. An incredible, intelligent young man, one of the most amazing businessmen with a brother on the autism spectrum with a great, great message. So all of that, plus hopefully some time to answer questions from you guys and to look at some of the comments you have to the question of the day after these messages. Stick with us.
Even though it's only been a little while, I've still been doing a whole bunch of amazing things I didn't think I could do before, so it doesn't quite seem so hopeless anymore.
About wanting to be an animator, it's not a silly little pipe dream. It's a very real, really obtainable reality.
It's put me on the path towards a career.
Oh hey, come on in! Exceptional Minds is a vocational program for young adults on the autism spectrum.
Exceptional Minds prepares us for careers in graphic design, visual effects, and animation.
It's a program for creative people.
Come on in. We have 3 state-of-the-art classrooms filled with exceptionally talented students. Here we can bring our ideas to life.
Take a look at my Flash animation.
We start with the principles of animation.
Along with the rules of design.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi. The school keeps a ratio of 4 students to 1 instructor to make sure they master the Adobe programs.
We earned the industry standard accreditations.
I've got 4.
Yes!
Woo!
And there is a course designed to teach us real studio techniques and shortcuts.
Most recently, we've added Maya and Nuke to the programs that we teach.
Hold on. It's not all fun and games here.
Students are coached on interviewing skills, writing a resume, and building a demo reel.
It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Adam. I'm a visual effects artist. I'm a student at the Exceptional Minds Academy where I'm learning animation, visual effects, and graphic design. Here's my card. Would you do me the honor of checking out my reel and resume?
That reminds me, you haven't even seen the studio. But first you need a security badge. We recently finished working on Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
We worked on such films as American Hustle, Lawless, and Judy Moody.
The graduates are part of a visual effects pipeline, and they're currently doing rotoscoping and paintwork for stereo effects.
In other words, we convert 2D movies into 3D.
Exceptional Minds is a privately funded nonprofit organization. We need your help now more than ever. Won't you help us change lives, one frame at a time? So call and schedule a visit to Exceptional Minds,
where we are changing lives
one frame at a time.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're very excited because right now we're going to go via Skype to Exceptional Minds Studios, where we have Ernie Merlan and Yudi Bennett waiting to talk with us. Hi, you guys.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
Oh, we're so thrilled to have you. I know how busy you guys are, and we would have you a lot more often, except that I know that you're so busy. But thrilled to have you on today because one of our topic for this entire week is talking about autism and employment, and I can't think of a better way to kick it off than to talk to the two of you. But for our viewers who don't know who you are and aren't familiar, Ernie, give us a little bit of background on what Exceptional Minds does.
Great. Well, we're a vocational program for young adults on the autism spectrum. We teach animation and visual effects and animation. And basically now we're taking kids as young as 12 for some of our programs, but our main program focuses on 18 to 30-year-olds that we're preparing to actually work in the movie industry. And they're actually working on major motion pictures like SpongeBob or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
And when they graduate from here, we provide job development and job coaching to get them either placed on the outside or they come and work in our own studio.
We have one of the worst connections in the history of mankind, but we're hearing most of. Most of what you guys are saying.
You're not seeing it visually, are you?
We can see you visually, yes, and so we're seeing both of you, and I know that you're mobile right now because you're going to try to give us a tour. And before we started the interview, we showed one of the clips. We showed one of the clips that you guys had made. So inspirational to see some of the individuals and see some of the things that they're working on there. Now your program, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a 3-year program for the adults?
It is. It's a 3-year program where they get certified in Adobe programs and they get work readiness experience. So we actually have Dr. Lori Stevens come in and work with them on sarcasm, how to work with your boss, how to work with members of the opposite sex, the kind of things we should all get trained on.
Absolutely.
But they also get a lot of hands-on experience where they learn to work in a production line and they learn to do more specialty kind of trade things that are used in the movie industries.
Okay.
And for any of your viewers, we have all of our work, both our student work and our professional work on our website. So if they want to check out more of the work, they can go to www.exceptionalmindsstudio.org.
Okay, exceptionalmindsstudios.org. All right, so are you guys going to walk a little bit and show us some stuff?
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I'd love to take you on a tour of Exceptional.
All right, let's see if the internet holds up. Let's see if the internet will allow us to do that. So
yes, yet?
Yeah, we've got you right now, so go right ahead. And they're frozen.
Okay.
You know what? Let's do. We're going to pause for a second because you got frozen there, Eddie. Let's pause for a second. We've got a clip that we want to show that's just about a minute long, and let's see if we can get our internet connection a little bit stronger. So we're going to pause for a second, Ernie, and take a look at this from Exceptional Minds.
Okay.
If you can identify someone's passion, if they can identify it first within their own heart and soul, and then if we can connect them with that passion, that's an electric combination.
You have a gift, and God knows I applaud
you. On Monday morning, I will begin my career at Stargate Studios. The week after that,
some of my classmates will begin working on a major motion picture for Paramount Studios.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us via Skype Ernie Merlan and Yudi Bennett. They are at Exceptional Minds at the actual studio, and they're going to give us a walking tour. So go right ahead, Ernie and Yudi.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to leave Yudi here as I venture off into the school. So I'm going to walk you through. Right now, what I'd like to show you, a student working. Say hey, Tom. That's Eddie back there, who's one of our instructors. Hey. And then if you look over here at the classroom, this is one of our typical classrooms. We have 10 computers in there. Currently, they're working on Maya. That right there is Randy, one of our teachers. You'll see the setup is that we have a TV screen and a dry erase board that they can learn lessons on, but right now everyone's working individually. I'm going to walk you over to here. If you look through here, I don't know if you can really tell, but that's our elevator prop. We use that elevator in order to have our students do pitch. They have to talk about themselves for 30 seconds. They get to tell everyone what school they went to, what they are good at. And for those students who have selective mutism, it gives them 30 seconds. Something to say, and for those students that talk too much, it kind of limits them to 30 seconds of something to say.
Okay, so now, Ernie, for 1 second, pause for 1 second because we lost you a little bit there. But so is it an actual elevator or is it just a room to mimic an elevator?
That's a great question. Before, in my previous life, I actually had a visual effects studio where I did a lot of music videos and things for amusement parks. That happens to be a prop that I brought back from one of those sets, and it's a prop. It's just on the wall.
I love
practice
it.
30-second pitch.
An elevator to practice an elevator
What
pitch.
I'm walking you through, what I'm walking you through now is our kind of Hall of Fame. This is our hallway. It has the movies that we've worked on. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, you see that we did some visual effects on, as well as Lawless and even American Hustle, our projects that we've worked on. When we work on those, we do those in our studio. I'm going to give you a glimpse into this top secret location. Here these guys are. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. Those guys are working right now in our studio. That studio is under lock and key. They all have to wear badges. There's cameras that are actually on servers so that to steal information. The computers are all on lockdown, so they can't go out to the internet. That way, any top secret work that we get from the studios, like for example, right now we're working on a top secret movie for Marvel, and we can't release any of that information because if anyone sees what those images are going to look like before we're finished, you know, we're in bad shape.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
So secrecy.
We have secret contracts with them all, non-disclosure studios, so that we never show off what.
Absolutely. And
we're working on. This is our donor wall. They've been wonderful enough to work with us here. That was actually designed by one of our students. I'm going to walk you into what we call the blue room for obvious reasons. This is blue.
Love it.
Right now where you see signs on the walls, those are just for inspiration for a class, but those all actually get removed. And you'll see as I turn up, we have lighting all up in the ceiling. And this is actually a blue screen, where we put our kids against that wall and we're able to record any sort of special effect that we want to record. We also use it as a theater. Right now, class going on. Jordan, can you say hello? Hi, and there's Howie.
Hi.
We're talking to Autism Live.
Nice.
So, what are you guys working on?
Jordan's doing her part for so you want to tell them what you're doing? She has a film called Cute versus Not.
Yep, and so cute versus not cute is about what's a cute look, what's a not so cute looking stuff.
Yes.
In this case.
Done that for several of her characters, which are usually pretty cute.
I don't know if you can.
In fact, we're having a real hard time because it's breaking up a little bit, Ernie.
Yeah, it's just loud here. I'm going to walk you into one of the classrooms now. Hang on
Okay.
1 second. Guys, we're here with Autism-live. Hi. This is our classroom number 2, our second year students, and they're working on a couple animations right now. Does anyone have something up that we can show?
Michael has something up immediately. Everybody else is getting reference imagery for
Let's see, Michael, go ahead and play that.
It's not
So as you can see, Michael is making an animation of a bird.
I love
for a big
it.
Project is coming up that will help videos for kids in hospitals.
I love it. What a
Okay,
beautiful bird.
Are you guys hearing me okay now?
Yeah, it continues to break up. The filmmaker in you is not going to love how it looks when you see this back, but we're seeing enough. It's inspirational.
I'm sorry.
It's
Hi,
okay.
guys. Okay, this is our room 1 classroom. They work on animations as well. They're learning to do animations. Right now, they're sketching. Anyone want to show off their sketches? So here's an example of Annie creating a creature there.
The xenomorph from Aliens.
Yep.
In honor of H.R. Geiger.
And you can see they're just working on various effects. I'm going to show you on this big screen right here. They're working in Photoshop right now, and they're learning creative effects on these pictures.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to walk out of this classroom now. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to walk back.
Okay,
Walk you through the blue room here. Hang on 1 second. Okay, go ahead and shoot. You can ask questions now.
Now you're back.
I hope that wasn't too difficult for you.
It wasn't too difficult. It's very pixelated, but we get the gist of that there are kids that are there, young adults that are there that are learning incredible things and that they're excited. So we definitely got that. And I think for the parents who are watching, I was recently at an event 2 weeks ago, Ernie, and so many parents were coming up to me with 16 and 17-year-olds and saying, I'm so terrified about what's going to happen when they're done with high school. I want them to have a job, but I want them to be fulfilled, and I want them to be excited, and they're into computers, and I don't know what to do. And I was saying to so many of them, well, gee, have you heard of Exceptional Minds? Are you aware of the fact that this is something? And I do want to touch for just a second on the fact that here in Southern California, you are still vendored with the regional center, are you not?
Well, that's a difficult question. So it depends on the regional center, to be honest with you. Lanterman has been really good to us. They've actually reimbursed the families that have come here. We're having a little bit of tougher time on the North LA side. Okay. But it just depends on the regional center.
Okay, but I think parents should know that this is a real opportunity, a place where they can take their kids, where everybody gets them and is excited to have them there, and will give them real job skills. Now, you guys, you've graduated 1 class so far that's gone through the whole 3 years. Is that correct? And then in a couple of months, you're going to graduate the 2nd class, or have you graduated 2 classes now?
No, that's right. In June, we'll be in our 2nd class of 2015. The first class, most of them are working. We have one that's working at Stargate Studios. He has actually gotten a promotion and is now working full-time, 5 days a week. We have other students that are here in the Exceptional Minds studio, the one that I just kind of walked you in at the end of the hall. There they get to work on major motion pictures, and they get paid to do so here at Exceptional Minds. For some of those guys, they'll be here for 6 months to a year and then move on to another studio where we'll place them. And for others, they may be here a little longer depending on their skills or their...
Okay, so for a parent watching who thinks that they would like to send their older young adult, about to be adult student, do you guys have a typical school year that it starts in September, or when do they need to be applying to start in the next class?
We do start in September for our full-time program. Now, our full-time program, we have a long waiting list. Right now, I'm looking at 30 students for 10 spots. So it's a little bit tight there. But that program is designed in 3 years to get students out in the visual effects industry. So it's not for everyone right off the bat. We also have part-time lessons that we teach once a week where students come in for once a week and learn animation or learn editing or learn website design, depends on what they're particularly interested in. We also have Saturday workshops where it's more of a group lesson where we'll have 5 or 6 kids in the classroom together working on projects and learning a particular program. And then we also now have what we call our bridge program, where students that are doing pretty well and could potentially be in our full-time program get to come and work on their behavioral skills, on their technical skills, maybe on their portfolio, so that they get that next step and they're ready to come into the full-time program.
It's pretty remarkable. And then I understand you have a summer program for the younger kids?
It's actually for all age kids.
Okay.
Pretty much. Well, I think the oldest we have is 30-year-olds. But yeah, we have a program in the summertime where 12-year-olds to 16 come in and work as a group on really animation or painting or even video games. We also offer courses for 16 to 30-year-olds that might come in and want to learn Maya, for example, or want to learn more advanced programs like Nuke.
Well, what you guys do is incredible. I'm excited because this summer, for the first time, my son will be 12, so we'll be talking. And because I have a feeling that this will just make his eyes pop out of his head. But Ernie, one more time, your website is exceptionalmindsstudio.org, correct?
www.
And you froze.
So it's exception with an S, studio. So it's 2 S's together. But you know, if you just put Exceptional Minds into Google,
It'll come up.
Pops right up.
It'll come up. We're totally losing you. It's intermittent. But Ernie, thank you so much for taking us on the tour. We barely saw Yudi, but tell her thank you so much. The work that you guys are doing with these young people is absolutely inspirational.
You know, I apologize that we couldn't come in, but next time I got to make a point to just come in and do it at your studio.
But it was...
we just have our hands full. It's been crazy around here, but
I
really
know.
great. And you know what's great about our program is the kids. I mean, the accomplishments they're having, the things that they're doing that no one would have believed is pretty amazing.
Well, I think that they're amazing, and I think your level of excitement about working with them is what drives the whole thing. So we thank you for all of your service, and we thank all of those kids for being such, and young adults and adults for being so inspirational. And we're going to let you go, but stay on because I want to talk to you during the break, and we're going to show one more clip that you guys have sent to us. And then we're gonna have another something that we're gonna show, but don't go away because when we come back, Jonathan Mitchell is gonna be with us talking about that recent article in Newsweek titled "The Debate Over Autism: An Autism Cure Turns Hostile." So stick with us. Right back after these.
Well, today is the One Hope Act Today for Military Families 10K and 5K Run, Walk, and Family Fun Festival.
Thanks for coming out to support this awesome cause. What I'm trying to accomplish here is to get more people involved, more people to be aware of autism as a disorder so that they can be more involved in this effort to help people find resources.
Pull that belly button in, get a nice balance there.
This is an incredible event. I'm very passionate about it. Autism is affecting so many kids across the United States, and I also support our military.
2, 3, 4.
My name's Gunnery Sergeant Sean Tajma, working with the School of Infantry West. I'm currently running with 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I'm personally involved with this because my son Jacob has autism. I just want to say thanks to ACT Today for what they're doing to help my family and other military families with autism.
Here we go, let's hear it for the 2nd Light Infantry.
Some of the main sponsors here, of course, One Hope Wine is the title sponsor.
What we do is we donate 50% of our profits back to different partner charities, one of them being ACT Today that does a fantastic job.
ACT Today is very dear to my heart because when my husband was deployed, they were there when we didn't know how we were going to make things happen. They give so much to the military family, and it comes at a time when you just don't know how you're going to make ends meet. So to me, it's more than just an event, and it's more than just a grant. It's a gift.
All right, you guys, have we gone over the rules?
Thank you all to the teams, to the individuals that donated to this fantastic cause out here again this year. The event got larger.
People ask me why military families with autism. Why does ACT Today have that as a special program? I'll tell you why. Because our military families should not have to fight 2 battles. One, to protect our country, and another, to get services for their children. They move so often. Every time they move, they have to start again. We owe it to them. And it just was a tremendous success. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking part in it.
Check this out, Marine. See all these wonderful people? All you gotta do next year, Marine, Devil Dog, 2 for 100, sign up with me, staff or an email, and I'm gonna take you out here, do a little 5K, little PT early in the morning. After that, you're gonna have the time of your life. After that, I might even be able to get you a letter of appreciation, maybe a little libo time. How's that sound?
Sign up for next year because this is an event that comes on and on. It's a win-win situation here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm really excited because we have live in the studio a wonderful guest. Jonathan Mitchell is joining us. Thank you so much for being willing to come in today.
Thanks for having me.
You are a writer and you have a blog that's called Autism's Gadfly,
That's
which
correct.
I want to encourage everybody to check out. You also have a book that's out. The name of the book?
The Moo Rhythm Bluff.
Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but you're pretty much a hot topic right now because an article came out in Newsweek. The title of the article was The Debate Over an Autism Cure Turns Hostile. And in that interview, you're featured very heavily in the interview talking about yourself. You identify yourself as somebody who's on the autism spectrum. So I want to start there. At what age were you diagnosed and what were you?
I believe it was about like 13 or 14, though my parents didn't tell me until some years later. And then when I was like about 21, I went into a place at UCLA to try Ritalin because I sort of thought of myself as having attention deficit disorder. But then the guy said, you know, that I was autistic, or he said, what do you think when I say you're autistic? The psychiatrist at UCLA I saw like in 1977.
And so how old again were you again when they actually told you that your parents,
Well, I guess the psychiatrist told me that my parents confirmed me I was about 21.
21.
Yeah, and
okay.
but I think a psychiatrist I saw before that, I started seeing him when I was about 13, and so I'm from about age 13 to 16 told my parents and
So 21 and somebody says that to you, that you're autistic. What did it feel like?
Well, I don't know. At the time, I thought that it was sort of like the way I was, but much more severe, because in those days, people didn't know that much about autism, and it wasn't thought of as something where people with a normal level of intelligence had it, and they were like vegetables, who were completely nonverbal. I was nonverbal, I guess, from like 2.5 to age 4, though I don't remember that period.
And did they, at that time, the diagnosis was still such that they used terms like Asperger's and classic autism and PDD-OS? Did they?
Well, those didn't come about until like about the 1990s. This is
right.
well before.
I was thinking you were younger, because you look like such a young guy.
Thanks. I guess I look young for my age.
And is it okay to ask you how old?
I'm 59.
59. Okay, great. You do look younger. I was thinking you were a little bit younger than me, and I'm 52.
Okay.
So we're still in our 50s.
Yeah.
This is a good thing.
Yeah.
In any case, so you're right. So they did just use the term autistic.
Yeah.
And had you I guess was Rain Man out then? Had you seen
Rain Man wasn't out until the late 80s.
Okay, so did you have a reference for it?
Well, actually, I did. That's an interesting thing, because this is the first time I heard of autism was from a movie called The Change of Habit, and was the last movie that Elvis Presley did, and Mary Tyler Moore starred in it, and it dealt with like a nonverbal autistic girl. And the first time I saw that, I'd never heard of autism. This was like in 1969, and I asked my mother, is this what I have? And she said, that she sort of thought it might have been, because she asked the person who was my therapist, a psychoanalyst at the time, and she said no, but that I wasn't really autistic. This is what she told me at the time. And I guess shortly after that, Dr. Cassidy, my former psychiatrist, who I saw after, the psychoanalyst, told my mother that I was autistic, I think, but I'm not sure of the whole story.
Okay, but clearly, you were diagnosed at a period of time when there wasn't as much information out there as there is now.
Nowhere near as much.
And so, did you let other people know in your life? Did you identify yourself? Did you say to people, I have autism, I'm autistic?
Occasionally, but that wasn't until I was like in my early 20s, and I didn't really want to disclose it, to too many people, but some.
Okay, and so how? Part of what this article was about, that was in Newsweek, is how people look at autism and how people with autism look at autism. There's a big movement right now of people who identify themselves as self-advocates, who are on the autism spectrum, who talk about neurodiversity, and that there's this world of let's just all be different and stop trying to change people who have autism. And your point of view is a little bit different from that.
Well, actually, it's a lot different.
Well, and in fact, you have the title of your blog is Autism's Gadfly, but what's the subtitle?
We don't need no stinking neurodiversity.
Okay. And so explain to us, what do you mean by that?
Well, I don't believe in the concept of neurodiversity. I don't believe that autism is just like a different way of being. I believe it's a disability and a disorder and a disease, and those views neurodiversity doesn't agree with, except they sort of claim it's a disability, but there's sort of like a semantic wordplay where it's like a social disability rather than a medical disability. And if society and a lot of them believe that if a society provided the correct accommodations, autism wouldn't even be disabling, and I believe that's a bunch of nonsense.
Okay, and you describe that, there are times when you're frustrated with how you perceive yourself interacting with the world. Like, what are some things that you find really difficult?
Well, it's like difficult, to have friends and, meet a girlfriend and to get things done, during the day, and if people, stare at me if I, talk loud or make funny movements, things like that.
And that's been hard for you.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to offer you a quote-unquote cure, if there was a pill that they could give you today that would take the difficulties that you have away, would you do it?
Sure, if as long as I could be like the same person and not have any like untoward side effects or anything like that.
And I think that's the key to everything what you just said. If I could be the same person. Because to me, and help me to understand here, because I have a son who's on the autism spectrum, and I always want to have the world accept him for who he is. I don't want him to be different than who he is. But when he has trouble with something, I don't think of that as being who he is.
Yeah.
I think of it as being separate from him. Just like I am not somebody who has good balance. So me on a motorcycle is never going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. But I don't think of that as being me. I think of that as being something I struggle with. But it seems like that some of the self-advocates identify themselves as being autism. Do you find that when you're talking to any of the people who have autism that that are self-advocates? Because I know I always struggle that they'll refer to themselves as autistic, and they don't like it if you say you have autism. What do you feel about that? What do you prefer when somebody says?
I don't care one way or the other. I've heard that also, but I don't really have an opinion on that.
Do you prefer that somebody say that you are autistic or that you have autism, or do you prefer that they use other words? You don't care.
I don't care one way or the other.
Okay, because you've got other more important things going on.
That's right.
And you do have a very full life, though. To me, and maybe that's not how you feel about it, but you are busy, you're writing, you have work that you do. So I look at you and I think, you're amazing. And I'm sorry to hear that there are aspects of your life that are hard enough for you that's not great for you. But when people refer to, there was one article that titled your article about self-hatred.
Well,
do you feel like you hate yourself?
No, but actually that was, like how can I put it? That was like, I'm trying to find the sensationalism on the media's part, like Newsweek sort of, very much sensationalized, that article, and that's not really the way I feel, though a lot of members of neurodiversity have accused me of hating myself or having like a bad mother who taught me to hate myself, but that's not the way it is at all. And my mother actually, like I was in psychoanalysis, and you probably know about the Bettelheim era from history. My mother, unlike you and other mothers, actually lived through that, and she had just see a psychoanalysis that I was saying who blamed her for a lot of my problems, or
the refrigerator moms that they call everybody. That the autism was because the moms weren't interacting, and so self-advocates are deciding for you that your mother must have fed you some kind of thing that made you not like autism.
Well, in fairness, it's not all of them, but some of them have sort of said that.
Okay, and sometimes the discussion has turned a little ugly. Shall we say that?
Yes.
So what are some things? I mean, we know that there are children. We don't want to say any words that are inappropriate. Oh. But things have been said to you as a result of some of the things that you write. Are there some things that are sort of PG-13 that you can share?
Well, just like people equating me with a Nazi or genocide, or calling me names, or one girl who I think was only about 15 years old saying that I was like a Jew who sympathized with the Nazis during the Holocaust, and I'd gladly jump into a crematorium, things like that.
And that's really inaccurate, right? I mean, it's not that you're against the autism community, but at all. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're not against the autism community.
No.
You just wish that you had the ability and that you'd like others to have the ability to overcome the more disabling aspects.
Yes.
Okay. And what would on your wish list of things that you would like to be able to overcome, what would be the first thing that you would like to overcome?
Well, being able to have friends and a girlfriend, not having the handwriting or motor coordination problems, and being able to get things done, during the day, because it's very hard for me to apply myself. It's hard for me to get writing and other things done. I guess I won't say having a job, because I guess I'm financially comfortable thanks to my parents, and I'm retired now. I tried to work. I worked sporadically for many years, from age 24 to 51, and I was a medical transcriptionist, but I had problems, was fired from some, then I end up retiring at 51.
Okay. But I still look at what you're doing now. I mean, you've written a book. Yeah. And you're very active on your blog, you're very active on the internet. I mean, that's work. You know, you're prolific and working in that way.
Okay.
You're creative, and that's a wonderful thing. But have you tried to do anything? I'm sure you have over the years. Have you tried any therapies or anything to help you to be able to have friends and help you to be able to have a girlfriend?
I was in psychoanalysis, you know, for over 10 years, and I saw a psychiatrist and then like another, you know, psychologist other than, you know, and I guess I had sensory motor training, you know, that was just, you know, when I was a kid, that was supposed to help like with my motor coordination problems. Maybe that's not like trying to help me make friends, but other than that, I really didn't have anything.
Okay. So if somebody were to say to you now, okay, we want to work with you on social skills so that you can be able to have a girlfriend, would you be interested in that?
No, because I don't believe it, you know, would be effective, and, you know, particularly, you know, like at my advanced age.
You say that like it's over. It's not over yet.
Technically, I suppose
I know
not,
people who have found love in their 60s.
Okay.
But, you know, it has to be something that you're interested in. And if you're not interested in it, I certainly don't want to.
I don't believe there's anything that can really be done.
Okay. And so what would you like the community to know? Do you think anything was misunderstood in the article? Is there anything that you'd like to put out there to let people know who you are?
Like one mistake they made was that it was that I got like a lot of the vitriol from parents, but that wasn't, you know, that wasn't accurate. It was, you know, from people alleging to be on the autism spectrum who believed in neurodiversity, and I'm trying to remember and that I'm not like a hater or a self-hater, or I'm trying to remember. There are probably some other things, but I can't remember them all. There were some inaccuracies, you know, in the article, but I think that's, you know, par for the course for these media type things.
And for the people who think and are saying these not nice things to you, that are when you write something saying that you're against the whole community, what would you like to say to them?
Well, I think that they should just stop blogging and stop being mean to people, and that they should just, you know, give up neurodiversity and you know, and just, you know, leave parents alone that want to help their kids and have a better life for their kids, and help whoever, you know, leave people alone, you know, who want to be cured of their condition. I know that's not going to happen, but, you know, that's what I'd like to say to them.
Okay, somebody has written in and wants to know, was it helpful for you to know of your diagnosis? And they said, you look so young and so intelligent.
Well, thank you, and thank you. Yeah, it was somewhat helpful, but only to like a limited extent, because there's not a whole lot that can be done about autism, in my opinion. But it was still helpful to know. And autism, you know, is sort of like a very broad term for a lot of, you know, very, very different things, but it's still, I guess, limited helpfulness.
Okay. Somebody else says thank you for coming on, and
You're welcome.
They have 3 questions for you. How were your school years in the 60s and the 70s?
They you know, they were very difficult. You know, for the 60s, I was like a special ed student, and I was occasionally, you know, physically abused at one special ed school, and another one, it was like a research thing involved in UCLA, and they didn't really, you know, teach us a whole lot or care much about the kids. And then I briefly went to one regular private school for half a semester and was expelled from there for behavioral problems. And then in the 70s, I got passing grades like in middle school, but it was still kind of hard. And then I sort of had like a lot of trouble in adolescence and did like very badly in high school and had problems, you know, with like a lot of the kids. And I had to switch, like go to a school like in another district because some people were harassing me, and I was so scared. And this was after I'd been to like a private school like in the 10th grade, and I had problems there, and they were threatening to expel me. So I left and went to a public school in the 11th and 12th grade out of my district. So it was kind of rough.
But you got through.
Yeah, I graduated high school and then went to a community college and barely got like a bachelor's in psychology at UCLA many years ago, but no graduate school.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Yeah. They further wanted to know if you have a job, which I think we've already discussed.
No, not currently. No, I'm retired at kind of a young age.
But a writer.
Well, not a professional. Well, technically, I could say I was a professional writer because I did make some money from an article that was published in Los Angeles Magazine. But yeah, that would sort of be a stretch saying I'm.
Well, but you have a book out.
Yeah, and I've sold some copies, but it hasn't even, you know, the amount of money I've made from that hasn't even covered my startup costs.
Okay.
So,
they want to know if you have a family.
yeah, my parents are still living, and I have a sister who's a few years younger who's still living.
Now, do you live independently or do you live with your folks?
I live in a house they sort of set me up in.
Okay. But you're able to do all the things that you need to do in your house and live independently. Do you have some help that comes in and helps you?
Well, my parents have a housekeeper that comes in and helps me like with cleaning, sometimes. But other than that, I pretty much do everything.
I imagine your parents are very proud of you.
Well, mom said she was proud of me for the Newsweek article.
I'll bet she was.
Yeah.
I'll bet that was really important to her. They went on to say that I read one of your blogs and I believe that you are an amazing person.
Thank you.
That's from one of our viewers. Okay, so I want you to take a couple of minutes and tell us about your book. This is a great opportunity to let us know.
It's called The Moo Rhythm Bluff, and it's about an autistic individual. You've heard the saying, lucky at cards, unlucky at love, or lucky at love, unlucky at cards. My protagonist is lucky at neither. He does very poorly with women. He loves to play poker, but he almost always loses and gets into some trouble with gambling debts. But then he hears about this this experimental treatment for autism, but instead of mitigating his autism, it turns him into an expert poker player because it interacts on something called mirror neurons, which are neurons that that respond to the same neuron that when you move your hand, if you see somebody else moving your hand, the same neuron fires when they see that. And there's been some research showing that those are dysfunctional in autism, and they also have a type of brainwave called a moo rhythm, which takes place in an area of the brain where mirror neurons are located, and in typical people, if these rhythms become suppressed if they wave their hand, and if they see somebody else waving their hand, and they become suppressed in an autistic person who waves their hand. If an autistic person sees somebody else waving their hand, these rhythms don't become suppressed. So the character undergoes what's called neurofeedback to try to control, to learn to suppress his moo rhythms, and also he undergoes a treatment called transcranial magnetic stimulation, where they stimulate the brain magnetically, but instead it turns him into an expert poker player because he has enhanced mirror neuron capabilities. So he has an enhanced ability to perceive other people's intentions, and this turns him into an expert poker player. But then when he connects with a woman, he seems to lose his card playing abilities. But then when the woman doesn't work out, they seem to come back, and it deals with these sort of adventures. That's the gist of it.
It sounds fascinating. I can't wait to read it. It's available on an ebook.
Yeah, and it's like a print-on-demand paperback. You can only get it from Amazon. It was self-published.
Okay, we have some more questions that have come in, but again, the name of the book.
The Moo Rhythm Bluff, M-U Rhythm Bluff. It's sort of a esoteric, arcane title for people who haven't studied that stuff. But,
well, I knew about the mirror neurons.
Yeah.
I've heard about that in some of the studies, and it's something that we got my son a Wii because of the mirror neuron studies. But I didn't know about the moo rhythm, so I can't wait to read it. Now, some more questions here. They want to know: do you have a support group, people that you can trust, and if so, how did you build up that group of people that?
Well, I go to a group called AGWA, Adult Gathering United Autistic. Once in a while they have meetings, once a month, and I was one of the original members. We founded it in 1993. A bunch of us got together at a conference, and it's still going on, more than 20 years later. And I'm one of the founding members, and the person that helped found it and keep it going is Jerry Newport. If you remember him, he was sort of like the person that ran it before he moved to Arizona, and he met his wife there, and they made this movie that was inspired by them called Mozart and the Whale. And
I just heard about this movie for the first time last week. I need to get it. I need to see if it's on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'd never heard about it, and somebody said it was very inspirational to them, and I said, I don't know about this movie. So I can't wait to see it.
Okay.
Good movie, though?
Well, I didn't really love it a whole lot. One of the characters that got named Gregory, who got a fair amount of screen time, was inspired by me. But
okay, can't wait to see that. How do you feel about how autism is portrayed now in movies and in television?
Well, I'm not happy about a lot of it because they have, like shows like The Big Bang Theory that's, stereotype people as having like extraordinary abilities or extraordinary intelligence, and I think those are, a lot of unfounded stereotypes.
Okay. Are you somebody who goes to the movies very often, though?
Well, sometimes I don't see a huge amount of movies, but I go sometimes.
It seems like it's a topic that's more and more in movies, even if it's not the central point of the movie. One of the movies that was just nominated for the Academy Award, The Imitation Game.
Oh.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's a lot of things about autism in it, although that never gets mentioned. That word never gets said. It was never publicized that way, but you see it and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Because it's somebody who struggles with some of the same things that we've been talking about. Being able to have a relationship and get along with people in a social situation and being able to work a job because of those things. It's really about all of those things and much more. We'll say that. And somebody also wanted to know if you live by yourself or with a family, but we just addressed that. And do you like living by yourself?
Yeah.
Do you? And so I'm curious, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, in your free time, what's your favorite thing to do?
I do a variety of things like, playing around the internet and playing poker sometimes, though I lose more than I win.
Okay. And now you mentioned a couple of different therapies that your character in your book goes through.
Yeah.
Are these therapies that you've investigated for yourself?
Well, not really, because they're very experimental and there aren't very many people that are doing it. But I did meet with Marco Iacoboni, who's a neuroscientist at UCLA, who's done studies on mirror neurons, and I have, as like the article said, I've corresponded with him off and on for a few years, and I finally met him because he was thinking of doing some experiments on transcranial magnetic stimulation with autistic people, and he said he'd contact me if he was interested in having me as a research subject, and this was like last July, and I haven't heard from him about that.
But would you do that?
Sure. I'm not sure how helpful it would be. I have an academic interest in it, but well, I guess it doesn't help the guy in my book, but I think I'm not sure how I have an academic interest in it, but I'm not sure how helpful it's going to be for autistic people in the foreseeable future. Though, Manuel Casanova, who was written about in the article, has experimented with it, and there's a guy in Australia that's doing stuff who's claiming to have gotten some, results from it, but there's still, I think, a long way to go before it's going to be a viable treatment. And also, I guess John Elder Robeson, did it at Harvard, and he has a book, I guess, coming out about it that I'll read.
Okay. And now I want to be clear from the start that I have no desire to change your mind about anything, right? But I know that you have said, you said earlier that you support parents in wanting to get their kids help.
Well, help that I believe is effective, but the problem is, there's only so much that's effective and only so much that can be done, I guess, and the prognosis for a lot of autistic people isn't always favorable, in my opinion.
Right. And like I said, I don't want to change your mind, but I have a son who's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And we've seen a tremendous amount of progress. Okay. And I know that all kids are different and they make a different amount of progress. But have you, in your life, been able to see any of the work that they do with kids that do get progress? Have you been able to see that? Are you aware of some of the progress that's been made?
Well, I haven't really seen that much of it firsthand, but I know people claim there's progress made with kids. How much of it comes from actual maturation or the therapies themselves, I don't know.
Okay. Because if you're ever interested, I'm sure that I could hook up for you to be able to watch, to see progress that a kid makes.
Well, I might be, sure. I might be interested in doing that.
I think that would be fascinating to see, because I know that there are a lot of people who think that there isn't much that can be done, and they doubt the progress that people talk about. And I'd love for you to see it, to see what you think after you see it. I'd be really interested in what your opinion is after that. So maybe we
Okay.
can work something like that
Okay,
out.
sure.
Because I personally saw so much progress with my son, and I see
Yeah.
it with other kids too. I get excited about it.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see what you think about it at that
Okay,
point. But again, I'm not trying to change your mind. You're entitled to everybody's entitled to their opinion, right?
Right.
But Jonathan, I just think you're a remarkable person.
Thank you.
The Yenta in me wants to start hooking you up with potential girlfriends.
Okay,
But we'll
thanks.
talk about that off camera.
Okay. All right.
But I think that you're wonderful. I want to encourage people to check out your book. I'm going to check out your book. It's available by ebook. The title of it again?
Yeah, and also, like a print-on-demand paperback, the
Yes.
Moo Rhythm Bluff, MU Rhythm Bluff. I hope the viewers of Autism Live out there, or at least some of them, will help me out and buy a book.
Check it out. And they can check out your blog as well,
Sure.
Autism's Gadfly.
Yeah.
Tell us what a gadfly is.
Somebody who asks, like annoying and pestering questions, which I try to do with a lot of the things in the world of autism that I'm skeptical about.
We love that. There should always be somebody asking the questions that nobody else is daring enough to ask. And so the website to go to be able to get to your blog is what?
It's www.autismgadfly.blogspot.com, and I have another website with some of my short stories and writing on it. It's Jonathans-stories.com. Well, I guess they'll be able to find it if they're interested.
If you go to Autism's Gadfly, there are links to be able to get to all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I kind of poked around and saw a bunch of stuff.
It's autismgadfly.blogspot.com.
Okay. So thrilled that you came and were here with us.
Thanks for having me.
I really enjoyed it. All right, we went a little bit longer than I planned because I was having such a good time. But right now we're going to go to The A Word, which is a documentary that follows a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And this is the very beginning of Jack Riley starting to get ABA therapy. Kind of the kinds of things that we were talking about. I might have you watch a little bit of The A Word and see what you think. But in any case, so take a look. This is The A Word, and then we're going to be back after that. Stick with us.
Hey, can I have your hand? If everybody's agreed and held hands that early intervention is key, then I can't imagine why. If Original Center knew on November 2nd that they didn't speak or make much noise at all during the evaluation, they knew that on that day. I can't comprehend for the life of me why we even take a month to start speech therapy. That doesn't make any sense to me.
The waiting's hard.
The waiting's really hard. We read things about how the brain is so much more malleable the younger they are. Every day that ticks by just seems like a waste of time. You go on the websites and you read all these things, and there's kind of a club, I think, of moms who call themselves autism warriors. And I hated that word when I first read it. I hated it. I still do. Because I don't, there's a lot of things I wanted to fight for, but I didn't have to fight for autism.
Yeah. It's okay, man. We're lucky in that he sprints to mom.
Okay, this is how my son reacts to me coming home. Oh, Jack Riley. Hi! Mommy's home! Mommy's home! Hello!
When he sprints to me when I get home, and he kisses you and hugs you. Where's my son?
One of the first people that I told when we got the diagnosis was a good friend of mine who knew somebody who had an adopted son who has autism. I had not only fought the fight, talk about autism warrior, this woman founded a whole foundation and was extremely active and extremely knowledgeable, and my friend put me on the phone with her. She was the one who turned me on to both ABA and to CARD, and to tell me how valuable it was, and we're very grateful for it because we realized that had we not been given information, we never would have known. The Original Center would not have recommended that for us. So it required us to really push to get what we wanted. And I didn't know even until I asked the question if I had a choice. I thought this was great advice. Don't ever feel that you're at the mercy of the Regional Center because they're paying for your services. She told me, you're paying for your services. They're using tax money to do this and you've paid taxes. Intake at CARD was actually a much more pleasant experience than the Regional Center evaluation. I think in part because we'd been through it once and it wasn't as scary for us. It was a good experience for us because we felt like our son was himself. He had all the same things going on as far as autism is concerned, but he was still bright and happy and affectionate. I felt like he showed them both his good sides and the sides that he needs to work on. So for us, it felt good because we felt like at least people were seeing what we see. I felt maybe for the first time that they got it, that it's like, okay, he is this way, this is what he's got going on, but we can make this better. At first, it was exhausting to think that every single thing was a teaching moment, that every single thing that he did, and I know that, you know, I would say something to him and he'd be like, really? Can we just feed him? Can we just feed him dinner and we don't have to worry about it? But now even that's not as exhausting because it's sort of starting to become more natural for us, so that it doesn't feel as awful.
But I remember feeling guilty just for be with him all day, and then, you know, just sort of sneak the TV on to Sports Center in the afternoon, and he's playing with his Legos, and I just back up and lean against the sofa with him between my feet, but I wasn't really watching him. I would just try to watch Sports Center for a few minutes, and then I'd always feel guilty and try to get over that. So
No more guilt.
I think we're teammates. That's the best thing. Is I feel like she's on my side, I'm on her side.
We sort of, we've been lucky that my weak moments are his strong moments.
Well, on a personal note, is the camera still on?
It is.
On a personal note, I would be lost. She really dove in, and I mean, I've Googled autism, and I still don't understand it until she explains it to me.
Which is scary because I don't really understand it.
Well, that's the point, but she dives to the next step, and I'm just starting to understand the last step, and she's trying to explain the next step. And I told her last night I would be lost if she wasn't doing that, because I wouldn't, I don't think I could. Sometimes I'm reading these things and it just floats over me because I go numb again reading about it.
Well, I think in fairness, I think one person in each family has to take that role, because I don't think you can both drive. I think there's always somebody in every family who just takes that role.
Yeah. If somebody takes charge, take a back seat. That's the moral of that. Sending that to me.
Welcome back. That was the A word, a little bit later than we normally do it, but you know, we have this wonderful guest in here, so we went longer with him, and I know that you probably all agree with me that I want to get the A word eventually, because it's such a wonderful resource for all of us. And I always want to hear from our young adults and adults who are on the autism spectrum to know their thoughts and feelings about things. And I so appreciated hearing Jonathan's opinion about things. And I know you guys are familiar with my opinion that I've seen, and I shared with him that I've seen so much progress in my son. And you can watch with Jack Riley to see the progress that he makes through the course of the series. So I hope that you will take that resource, the A word, and watch it in its entirety or in different snippets, whatever suits you, so that you can see how progress is made, how it goes. And I'm going to hook Jonathan up with that as well. Okay, I want to go to a couple of different questions that came in. Somebody said, long question, part 1 of 2. This question is not for us. We are a card family. It's to give a response I can use to those who aren't card families. I have a frequent situation in real life and in online autism parent forums where another autism parent says that their very young child graduated from ABA when the child is actually still very delayed. It's really more that the child exhausted the areas of familiarity of the therapist and BCBA, and not that the child is no longer in need of ABA. And then part 2 of 2, I also see a lot of parents saying that they're ABA'd out because their ABA experiences have been exclusively slanted towards strict DTT teaching. They express an inability to enjoy life and to let their kids be kids because of the ABA style they've experienced, and they are ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Please make a plea to all the listeners out there about how wrong these viewpoints are and how good ABA can be for older kids. Then I can just point them to the YouTube clip. And I thank you so much for both of these questions because, our hearts are beating in the same direction at the same speed. It's so hard sometimes when I always think about if we were going to explain blue to different people. And you understand that, I am not a physics person at all, but whenever I'm around somebody who is a physics person and they'll say to me, blue is just how we perceive it, that blue isn't really blue, and that my blue might be your red, and that you and I will never be able to find the words to convey to each other what blue is. And there's a great scene in the movie The Mask. I think that's what the name of that movie is. Not the one with Jim Carrey, but the one where it's an individual who has the facial deformity. And he's sitting talking with a girl who's blind and trying to describe to her what colors are. And talking about what red being something that's hot and blue being something that's cold. It's difficult. And when somebody has had an experience in their home and had ABA come in, that becomes their idea of what ABA is. And it's difficult to combat that. Really difficult to combat that. And we're talking about combating that with people who are neurotypical, who have the ability to go online and see something like the A word because they have a preconception, because they've been told this is what ABA is. So hard to overcome. The only thing that I can say to you to say to those people is, what if? What if your ABA isn't all the ABA that there ever is? Just like if you go to one masseuse and you have an experience where you leave in pain, it could put you off of getting a massage forever. And yet there are so many masseuses that you could, masseuses, that you could go to and leave feeling better than when you walked in the door. And I say to people when they say, ABA, I'm done, I'm ABA'd out, it didn't work, it didn't do this. I always say, what if? What if, and what are you willing? What is your heart willing to look at? What if you had a bad ABA provider? What if you just didn't have an exceptional ABA provider? What if these things were different shades of blue? It's a really tough thing because it's emotional for people. They don't want to think that they missed something, and I think we can all relate to that, right? It's also difficult once you start bringing money into the equation, because there are people who think, I did the ABA and I got it done and I'm all done and my child graduated. And the truth of the matter is that the funding stopped. And so the funding source says to the parents, you're done. The truth about ABA is that honestly, no one is ever going to be done. Good ABA is used for Olympic athletes to get them to peak performance, and they don't stop using it, right? It's a way of learning. And if any of us stop learning ever, where are we at, right? I think that anytime we're above ground and breathing, we should be learning because it should be exciting to learn. So it's tough to explain to those parents, there are more things that your child could do. It's just a willingness on your part to take some time and energy. And especially if that ABA interrupted their whole lives, which I think, honestly, if we're honest, is part the ABA provider and part the parents' inability to see what can happen when you make ABA your existence. It's tough. I went through this when we started ABA. I was at a place because I had seen what it could do. And I had been in a parent's household who had said to me, just set everything else to the side, put the priority on this, and then start folding things back in. So I had had a great tutor to do that, and still I felt like it was a tourniquet on my neck in the beginning. And all I could think was, it's going to be at least 2 years. By the way, it was 5. And by the way, we still are using ABA and still looking for how do we plug this thing. We're never going to be done. But our intensive ABA was really a good solid 4 years with a 5th year of semi-intensive. So, it's hard. It's really, really hard to get people to understand that you don't give up on the rest of your life. You incorporate ABA, I've shared before in the show, we had a manifesto. We still have a manifesto. It's about what's most important to our family. And ABA shot to the top of the list of things that we did. Not that it was the most important thing, because being kind to each other and being the kind of people that we want is the most important thing, right? But the most important thing we do became ABA. And it became that for a good solid 3.5, 4 years. That we rearranged absolutely everything else to suit that purpose. And I don't regret that for a second. But we kept folding other things back in. It didn't mean that my son didn't play Little League. It just meant he didn't play every year. It didn't mean that we didn't never have fun. It just meant that we had fun around the ABA and took the therapist with us. You gotta have time for family time. And if you look at this equation in the right way, having the ABA therapists help you creates family time that is so much bigger and so much richer than what you would have if you hadn't had that ABA influence in there. But you gotta look at it in that light. It's hard. And I would say to you that one of the best things that you can do as a parent is stay in your lane, be positive, do everything that you know how to do, and those other parents will notice. And eventually they will ask you a question. How did they make that happen? How are you staying so happy while you're doing this therapy? How is your child making all this progress? And then you say, we're continuing with the ABA. We made it a priority. We folded our lives into this, and we schedule family time, and we invite the therapist to come with us to the restaurant on Friday so that we can have the pizza that we have that's family time Friday. When you advertise, marketers know this. You advertise and you can put something on every single billboard, and some people will go, "Ooh, I want to know more about that. Oh, I want to do," they'll investigate, right? But the single biggest reason why people will go and spend time and money doing something is because they saw it on someone else. They saw it work for someone else. They saw someone else doing it and being happy. They saw someone else wearing it and being beautiful. And when you wear your ABA and your lifestyle that came with ABA, others will see it and want to know about it. I guarantee you, it happens. It doesn't matter where I am. I do not walk around in an Autism-live t-shirt. I don't. But I can be standing in line at the bank, and before I'm done, I get into a conversation with somebody, and I end up writing resources down for them on the back of a deposit slip, because they're like, how did you get help? How did this happen? And it comes up. It just does. So be the promotion for ABA. Do what you need to do for your family so that other people can see the light. That's the ticket. All right, now I'm all verklempt. So we're going to take a break. We're going to be back with more of Autism Live after these messages. Stick with us.
Looking for some cheap festive napkins for your next party with your kids? Look no further. We're going to be making some hand-dyed paper napkins. While we make this fun activity, you'll notice that these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skill and where to find it on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based online tool that helps parents create curriculum to help teach their children on the autism spectrum. And if you're already a Skills user, this will ensure that you get the most out of this fun activity with your child. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are paper towels, food coloring, water, a bowl, and rubber bands. Step 1, you're going to take your paper towel and you're going to fold it symmetrically into a shape. This is a chance to be creative to see how repeating patterns are going to be made. Once your paper towels have been folded into different types of shapes and patterns, you're going to take your rubber band and you're going to use that to secure it in place. These are my folded up napkins. Now that they're ready, I'm going to take my water and mix it up with the food coloring and submerge the napkins in it. Once they've been submerged with the food coloring, I'm going to take it out and lay it flat to dry. If you leave it in the water too long, they're going to completely disintegrate, so just leave them in for just a moment. I've been very patient, and here is my finished pattern napkin. Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity with me today. Until next time, guys, craft on! Bye.
To find more about Skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parent icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I have another question. Somebody said, hi, Shannon, your thoughts on the IEP accommodation of retaking a test for low scores. On one hand, gives the student a chance to push. Other hand, grades are somewhat artificial, and thanks. Very timely thing, and I will tell you very honestly that we have been utilizing this year with my son. I'm a former teacher. So here's the point of view that I'm going to come from. Tests are supposed to be a way of assessing what was learned. And all that's really important to me is what actually gets learned. So often a test ends up measuring what somebody's short-term memory is, which for me, it's not impressive to me, right? As a parent and as a teacher, I'm concerned with what did the person actually learn. So I don't care when the test is. I don't care how many times they have to take the test. I care about if we give the test so many times that becomes the only teaching tool, because I don't think that tests are a great teaching tool. I think they can be an okay teaching tool, but it's not my favorite teaching tool because I don't think it gets moved into generalization the way that interactive teaching can do. So I don't believe for any kid that a test is something that we just give once and that's the end of the story. I understand that in the real world there are circumstances where this is the moment and you have an opportunity to show what you can do in this moment. But if we're focusing on education rather than performance, then we shouldn't even be dealing with that when we're in education. And part of education is teaching kids that there are moments when performance comes. And that's when you deliver and you don't go back and it is what it is. And as a teacher, I taught both English and I taught theater at the college level. I'm all about teaching performance and how we get to, there's a whole structure of how you get to performance. But in terms of regular school and academic tests, I just don't believe in it. I don't buy it. I get it that our kids have to be able to do it when they take a standardized test such as SATs, but we have prep for all of that so that they can be able to do that. I honestly think that our kids should be given as many opportunities as possible, because when a student fails a test, it is not the student that has failed. It is the teaching process. And you notice that I say the teaching process, not the teacher, not the student. The teaching process. And a good teacher, a great teacher, is one that recognizes that, does not get emotional about, I have failed this child and I'm a good teacher. It's not about that. It's about going back to the beginning and saying, what do I need to do for this individual for them to learn this? To me, that's exciting. To me, that's like the most creative game you can possibly play. And when you get to tinker and tinker and tinker and figure out what the thing is so that student lights up and they've got it, boy, there's nothing better. And when people talk about why do teachers do the job that they do, and people say, oh, it's because they get the summers off, malarkey. I don't buy it for a second. People only teach and stay in the profession of teaching if they get to that moment on a regular basis. So I think teachers should embrace being able to give a test more than one time. And I don't think it's about the student being able to push forward. It's about learning. So that's my thought on that. Now, we are going to go right now to a wonderful interview that I promised you at the beginning of the show. Yesterday, we had an opportunity to talk to Tom Dieri, and he is a sibling of a young man who is on the autism spectrum, his brother Andrew. And he is also someone who is an entrepreneur and graduated summa cum laude with a business degree, business and finance. He and his dad were concerned about Andrew's ability to have a productive life working. And so they came up with an idea, a family business, that became the Rising Tide Car Wash. So here's the interview that I did with Tom yesterday. Take a look. Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm so excited because joining us via the phone is Thomas Dieri. He and his dad have been very much in the news lately because of the wonderful things that they're doing at the Rising Tide Car Wash in Florida. So Tom, welcome to Autism Live.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here. And so your family owns a car wash. And that's a wonderful thing because we all love to have clean cars. And you guys do above and beyond cleaning cars. But you also are part of the autism community because you have a family member who's on the spectrum, correct?
That's right. My younger brother, Andrew, is on the autism spectrum.
And how old is Andrew?
Andrew is 24.
Wow. And at some point, you guys made a decision that it was really important to you to not only include Andrew, but to make your business something that is friendly for employment for individuals on the autism spectrum. How did you guys get to that decision?
Well, I mean, we started the business with the explicit intent to employ people with autism. We had seen, and when my brother was just about to age out of the school system, we had seen that there was really a lack of opportunities for him to find gainful employment. And as we dug a little deeper, we realized that this is a pretty systemic issue across the autism spectrum and across the country, with about 80% unemployment among individuals with autism. So my father is an entrepreneur, and at that time I was just graduating business school, so we decided we wanted to try to build something that could not only employ my brother, but could create a community and a real atmosphere that would employ a lot of people with autism. So we looked at a bunch of different businesses. We wanted to choose something that was big and bold in the local community because we see that really the primary reason there's such employment among people with autism is that our society perceives autism as a disability that requires sympathy instead of a potentially really valuable diversity. So we wanted to choose a business that could really illustrate that employing people with autism can actually be a competitive advantage for business, that they can actually be better than typical employees in a lot of job settings. And we thought that that would be able to have a measurable impact on employment among people with autism, even folks that we're not necessarily employing directly, but kind of changing the business culture. So the car wash ended up being an excellent opportunity because it is a really process-driven business. It's very detail-oriented. Those are skills that a lot of people on the autism spectrum share. And it is, it's one of the few or one of the largest kind of locally owned type businesses from a footprint perspective. We have a little over an acre site on a main road with a big street sign. It's really communicating our message. So it was... compared to other businesses that we had looked at, it seemed like it was a really good fit.
Well, and so tell us more about the car wash. How many individuals do you guys employ that are on the spectrum now?
So we employ about 35 individuals with autism, which makes up about 80% of our staff.
That's amazing. And what kinds of jobs are they doing there?
So they're pretty much running the gamut of all the jobs that we have. So pretty much everyone starts as an aftercare associate. So those are the guys that are drying down cars, cleaning the windows, vacuuming. They move up through the ranks to a tunnel guide-on associate, so the person that's actually loading customers' cars onto the conveyorized system, to detailer, to quality control associate, to supervisor, to even assistant manager. So we've been able to really move our guys throughout the ranks, and we've had employees with us now for just about 2 years, and the growth that we've seen in both their self and social confidence as well as their job skills has been really great.
Well, I think it's absolutely remarkable. And where exactly is the car wash located?
So we are in Parkland, Florida, which is just west of Boca Raton.
Wonderful. And I went on your website and saw that you have some amazing things that you guys offer. What's your most favorite package that you offer for when people get there and they want to get their car cleaned?
Well, I think the best way to experience our service is through either our full-service car washes, where we're going to not only clean the outside of your car, but as well as the inside, and our unlimited membership program. So for a flat fee, you can come and get your car washed as many times as you like over the course of the month. You get like a little tag, like Easy Pass or like a toll pass, depending on what part of the country you're in, and you just go right through. It's a pretty seamless experience.
Well, I think it's remarkable. Is there any view towards making this something that's nationwide?
Well, I mean, we chose this business because it is, in and of itself, a national business. There's about 19,000 car washes across the U.S. and pretty much every town. So yes, we would like to continue to grow the business. It is a relatively complex operation, so we want to make sure that we have all of our groundwork done before we start offering it to other families or before we start doing a larger scale expansion. We are hoping to open another one locally within the next year.
I think it's remarkable. And how about Andrew? Does he enjoy working there?
Yeah, I mean, I think at first he wasn't necessarily super thrilled with working here. It is grueling work. It's hard work when you're first starting and working outside in the Florida heat. But he's really, he really enjoys it now, and he's grown so much from just a self-confidence perspective. He's willing to try new things. He's happy to work in a team environment, and those are things that I think when we started we couldn't have necessarily fathomed for him. So it's been great to see him grow.
And Tom, as a sibling that and working with so many individuals who are on the autism spectrum, that when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Right. Has it been difficult in terms of seeing what things are suited to individuals' skill set?
It's been eye-opening because a lot of folks that we've employed and started necessarily with not much of a skill set or relatively closed off because of whatever personal experiences they had before coming to us. They grow so fast, and once you put them in an environment that we call it a structured work environment, where we really do our best to make every part of our operation very visual, very concrete, and very routinized. And that has been hugely impactful on getting all of our employees, regardless of where they start, up to a point where they can be really successful within our business system. And we've had many of our employees move on to higher education or other jobs. And I think that's really what our main goal is not necessarily that this is their the only place that they can go work. This is a place for a lot of our guys to gain some self-confidence, gain some initial skill sets, understand what it means to be a really good employee, and then they can go find things that are more aligned with what they want to do with their lives, or they can stay with us and grow with the organization. It's completely up to them. And I mean, it really, the way I view it is that the spectrum is so broad, like you said. If you build, there are so many businesses that can take advantage of employing people with autism, because if you really do a good job structuring your business, and frankly, every business should be structured in a very visual, concrete way, and know what's being asked of them. They're getting constant feedback, and they're not kind of just lost in the organizational structure. If you build your business in that way, which is a good business way to build a company, there's generally a meaningful set of individuals with autism that can be your best employees. So that's really what we're trying to prove, is that not necessarily is a car wash the only thing people with autism can do. It's that there are a lot of things, and it's about structuring your business well, and then you can take advantage of a group of employees that are really happy to be working, really engaged, really polite, wanting to follow your processes. I mean, you come onto our car wash site, and there's a much different experience than you get at a normal car wash. Everybody's happy to be here, and everybody's working hard. They're genuinely trying to provide an excellent quality service to our customers, and I think that's a rare experience.
Well, Tom, I think obviously you're a very smart guy. Graduated summa cum laude from Bentley University in economics and finance. I think you've got a book in you about how people can join autism and employment to the betterment of their business. I would be remiss if I let you go without talking about being a sibling. And so much of your life clearly still revolves around autism. Anything you want to say to all the brothers and sisters that are out there and all the parents who worry about their siblings and how much of their time is spent on autism because of a brother or sister?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's a as any sibling will attest, it's a very different experience growing up with a sibling on the autism spectrum than a typical sibling. My brother and I, when we were younger, I mean, we never really fought. We never had like a, let's say a hard relationship like a lot of folks, like a lot of siblings are so close in age. We're only 18 months apart. But we never had that closeness that typical, siblings that are also so close have. We never like played catch, or we never like, talked about girls and stuff. That just wasn't what we did. And as you grow up, that I think typically those types of shared experiences when you're young are what creates that closeness as you grow. So this has been a great experience for me to, although we necessarily weren't super close when we were younger, to continue to grow in our closeness as we grow up, because we're working together every day. I would encourage any sibling. I think many siblings have a similar experience that I've had, to really work on developing that closeness even as they get older, and being a real part of their siblings' lives, trying to help them find employment or find meaning within their lives, because frankly, at the end of the day, if they don't help with that, and if that doesn't happen, there's a lot of folks with autism that will need their help as they grow older.
Yeah.
So it's an investment in your family's future as well as your future to really get involved at a young age.
I think that's a really proactive way of looking at it, Tom. I think your family is remarkable. We want to invite people. I understand your website. Is it risingtidecarwash.com?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so want to encourage people, if they are in the Florida area, to go to your business, to make sure that they are patrons at your business. We will look forward to hearing about when you franchise this out. I'm sure there will be people standing in line to buy a franchise, because it's a great idea. Want to encourage all business owners to buy your book, because I hope you buy one. I hope you write one, because I think you're right on the money. These are incredible potential employees that will add to the business.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. And yeah, I encourage anybody who's in the area to come and check us out.
Well, give our best to your entire family and to all your employees. We think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
You guys have a wonderful day.
You too. We're going to be right back after these messages. Stick with us.
Hi, Lisa Ackerman back with your Talk of Facts, the autism journey questions and answers that you need to help your child make the progress they need. I'm here to talk to you about one really important item. A lot of people ask me the question, well, Lisa, I want to see this specialist in another state. How do I do that? I don't own a jet. I don't have the ability to fly without great pain and travel. Not a problem. We know how to get this done. So I actually encourage families, even though when travel can be a tremendous hardship, getting a child with autism through security, through the plane, and in the journey to where they need to go. We have a whole white paper on TACA about how to travel with special needs kids. So it can be done. So travel, we know that can be expensive. Not everyone has an unlimited supply of cash for air flights. We love and work with this group called miracleflights.org. They're fantastic. They will fly you and your child, so one parent, one adult, anywhere in the United States, one time a year. Also in the TACA document are places to stay. So often you will have people in your life that love and support your family and don't know exactly how to help. Ask them to gift you their travel or their rewards cards or coupons for hotel, rental car. That's a great way to be able to get maybe a hotel room that has a refrigerator or a microwave and that's close to a Whole Foods, so you don't have that added cost of going out to dinner, especially if your kid has a lot of allergies. It's important to note that there's not a pediatrician or a specialist by every Starbucks in the United States. Close does not always equal best. So I bring up the travel point so you know that travel is possible, number one, and often it's really going to help you get down the road faster for your kid and getting the answers you need from the specialist that knows what to do. So don't be afraid to travel.
Welcome back. Wonderful, wonderful interview. I so enjoyed having a chance to talk to Tom about what their family is doing. It's very inspirational, isn't it? And I have to say, thank you so much that our haircut mom wrote in and said, Shannon, thank you so much for giving us introducing us to so many resources, exceptional minds, and the wonderful interview with Jonathan. Thank you for giving us hope. Thank you, because it's you guys are all a part of it, right? And it is exciting to sit here and have an opportunity to have front row seat with you on learning all these things. You know, I always say, and it's not me that invented the phrase, but you know, what's negative is always available. We can always find the negative, and we can always say there just aren't enough resources. There just aren't enough resources. And it's true. It's absolutely 100% true. But it's also true that there are resources available, and if we're diligent and we're looking, we will find them. And for those of you who are go-getters, when you don't find them, you're the ones who make them. And that Rising Tide car wash wasn't there until Tom and his dad decided that it was going to be there. And now over 80 employees working there, okay? I'm just saying, I get chills. I get like, oh my gosh. And I don't know that I could do that. I don't have the business head. I don't know that I could go and start a car wash, but I'm certainly glad to be able to sit here and tell us all about it so that hopefully you find the thing that's right for you, whether it's that you find the resource of taking your child to the car wash to get a job, or that you decide, you know what, that's great, but I don't want to have a car wash job. I'm going to open, you know, this kind of a store that is going to work. You know, the sky's the limit, right? We'll all do what we can. Now, I do want to take a second here at the end of the show before I tell you about what's going on tomorrow, because tomorrow's exciting too. Mike wrote in, our wonderful friend Mike Hipple wrote in and said, remember, it takes a lot of time to get a part-time job for anyone, but if you have a physical disability like Mike does, it's 4 times harder to get a job. And Mike goes on to say, I wanted to be a line therapist, but because I'm in a power chair and not every house are wheelchair accessible, I can't be. So that I thought that could be where I would help children, and it is wheelchair accessible. So Mike, I just want to say that you inspire me on a daily basis about what can be done. And you know, I think the sky is the limit for you too. I think that you're an enterprising young man and that you're going to figure out something that's going to blow all of our doors off. I'm 100% confident of that. I'm not even questioning that. Okay. And then you went on to say about the testing question, Mike, that you say it's a hard question for you. Yes and no. You can get this, but know this. Some students do use their IP as a tool, which isn't a tool to me. To me, it's a way to make equals in schooling. I love that. The drawing, the cartoon, that's the word that I'm looking for, where it shows the difference between justice and equality. And it shows equality, and it shows a bunch of kids standing with a curtain, looking over a curtain to see what's happening, some people at a track race. And it shows kids all standing on a box that's the same level, that's equality. And they're all different heights, and they can't all see over the bar to see what's going on. But that's equality, right? And then it shows what justice looks like. And justice shows them standing on different level boxes so that they all have the opportunity to see over the curtain to see what's happening on the other side. You know, equality is a great, great thing, but I'm all about justice. I gotta say, you know, let's make it fair. And everybody needs something a little bit different. And I think that's part of the human experience, that everyone needs something different and that some people need a little bit more different. So that's what I'm about. But we all get to be about, as Jonathan reminded me, we all get to have our own opinions about things. Now, only have 2 minutes here, so I want to take a minute here to talk about what's going on the rest of the week, because it's good. It's really good. So tomorrow, Dr. Doreen Granpeche is going to be here with us, and she's answering your questions. I've already got some questions, but I've got room for more, so bring them on down. Also tomorrow, Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will be joining me. We have a very special guest, and you told me, Kelby, and I promptly forgot. Ralph Morin, because he's bringing the robot Ricky, so I keep referring to him as Ricky Morin, but it's Ralph Morin, and he's bringing a robot Ricky in studio. I'm so excited. If you've watched before when we've had robots on the show, I get a Twitter because my kid loves robots, and so I love robots. So that's going to be really exciting. Got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. We're even going to weigh in on Celebrity Apprentice, because I don't know if you saw that Lisa Gibbons, who has been on our show, won Celebrity Apprentice. So we're going to talk about that and why the runner-up made a huge impact on the autism community. And Nancy's friends with both of them, so we're going to dish on that. And Nancy will be here. Then on Thursday, we have Dr. Adele Nadowski back answering your questions. And I'm told, I don't want to get everybody all excited, but I'm told that Dr. Jonathan is going to be here, and that Dr. Jonathan Tarbox, and that we may have some pictures of a luscious, precious new baby girl who has joined the world since the last time we saw him. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about that. So all of that and ever so much more going on the rest of this week, including your questions and things that you guys write in. I hope you enjoyed today. We enjoyed all of our guests. We will get those Asperger experts back. But I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your precious kids a hug from me and one for you together. Bye-bye for now.